If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Oh, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Oh, Lord. Please let it work tonight. Please let the gods of technology smile down upon BZ. Not try to kill his poor little radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K. And I'm no longer in the original SHR Media studios. I am 7 miles south of there now. My huge desk is occupying a huge corner of my wife's living room until we move. Little explanation is in order on that, and it will be coming. I wasn't going to have a show tonight. I've got 2 guests scheduled for next week. But I decided, since I found this video that I'm going to play up front, that it needs to be heard before it goes away. And frankly, I think it's going to be going away. So that's why I'm here tonight. Oh, and also to tell you this. The Saloon is serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense out the front and back doors, depending upon the fear porn content, which is subject to change. Also, be forewarned what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours. If it goes 2 hours, maybe it will. Consists of my opinion and my opinion only. I don't water the drinks, just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. And also, welcome to Randy Perham, running for Congress in Alaska. Welcome to Mike. Welcome to Jan. Welcome to one viewer who will not be unmasked because that's not what we do here. Okay, an explanation. Oh, by the way, since this is on Spreaker, and I will explain why in just a moment, since this is on Spreaker, anywhere that you happen to be in SHR, or if you're listening on Spreaker itself, do me a huge favor, if you could, pretty please, with sugar on top. Share like crazy. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook, share anywhere that you can consider sharing for the show. I sent out social media a little bit late, and that's as I indicate because I just today found this video, and I knew that I need to play it before it goes away. Once you hear it, you will say, oh, yeah, this is going away. Plus, another couple of stories. I'm sure you've wondered why housing prices have just absolutely gone over the moon, and I was directly affected by that. I have the story on that. And also, logical thinking human beings have to ask, we don't have any influence on January 6th about any kind of an alphabet agency, do we? Well, I believe we do. In chat, also, Mike says, no more Demi. Well, that's true. No more Demi. Now, Demi was the studio cat. Now, she still visits Sean because I've spoken to him. He has a new job. He's still in the studio. The studio is not in the studio for the simple reason that I didn't want to get a last-minute notification by the property owner such as, by the way, you have 24 hours to get all your stuff out of the studio. So I figured I'd move it here to the wife's house because we are moving to a free state. And you may also be wondering, I wonder why BZ is only broadcasting on audio now on Spreaker. Well, you can play it. You go to shrmedia.com, shrmedia.com. Get on there, share. When you get to it at the front, the homepage, you'll see where it says live chat in the upper tabs, the upper area. Click on live chat. You'll go to a screen, and you will see the SHR Media chat room. You'll be able to listen on Spreaker, and you'll meet a lot of great people in the chat room itself. BZ, why are you no longer doing video? I tried my best. There's a difference in the servers, the people that are the internet server providers, the ISPs, and the people that SHR used downtown for internet and the people that provide the internet here. And there is a massive difference between the two. Now, I don't know the speeds, but the speeds at the SHR, the original SHR Media studio, were such that we could usually get things out, and occasionally there'd be screw-ups, mostly because of me. But they were running at an acceptable rate. 2 weeks ago, after I moved the studio, I tried to start some video and discovered, oh man, frames are dropping all over the place. It's staggering. I'm losing speech. People are not being able to make out what I'm saying. It would go, the video would advance a certain period of time, then just stop. Then it would just freeze. That's no way to run a show. So I thought, I wonder if I should consult my next tech guy, which is Jeremy Hansen. And so he said, hey, what's your bit rate? And we fiddled around with bit rates today until I did a stream test. And then the stream test indicated, all right, here's your problem. The cat's stuck in the toilet. Well, the toilet is the people that provide here, which is Frontier. Downtown, it was Comcast Business. I hate Comcast Business. And now Frontier here, where my wife works, you have to have good. Now, XSplit says that you have to have at least 5 KBS or MBS, I'm not sure which, but I think it's KBS. 5, a minimum of 5 to make the video go. And I found this out, and then Jeremy Hansen gave that information to me. Well, we have 1 here. So it's not even enough to make the video go. So until I leave and move the studio to a free state, I'm going to be doing audio only. I just wanted to explain it up front. There is insufficient horsepower here in the studio to make video work. I'm not leaving. I'm still going to be doing shows. I've got Alan Thomas scheduled for next Tuesday, and with luck, I've got Lonnie Poindexter and a number of people scheduled for next Thursday with a very unique topic that I've never discussed before here. So, thanks to everybody who's watching. Jan McKillop jumped in. Old NFO Jim Curtis just jumped in. By the way, Jim is kind of a new guy here. I sent him a social media blast for the show. And I know Jim Curtis. He has been on the show before, but not in a while. I should have him back. Jim writes a number of series. Go to Amazon.com. He's an author, got a number of books out. And in the field query, put Jim Curtis, and you'll discover all his books. He has a ton of books. I would highly recommend him. I read him, and I have almost all his books, I think, except I've got the Dead Tree variety. If he has any that are specifically Kindle only, I don't have those. I like to own my entertainment as opposed to so many other people here in the United States of America. I'm going to kind of be, I wanted to make sure that I get this video up front. In my opinion, this provides an explanation as to everything that is going on with regard to what I call Wuhan-19, the coronavirus. Welcome, Jack Alexander. Good to see you here in chat. Anyway, like I was saying, share. If you're on Spreaker, share all over the place. This video, what is it? Almost 8 minutes. Was some of the most frightening yet logical, cogently presented information about Wuhan-19. And I believe each and every one of us who have been listening to the show and are listening to the show now, once you hear this, you intuited that, I knew this was coming. I knew this was here. But now it's going to be confirmed. Oh, and I have somebody calling in on the phone line. Is this Jim? Are you there, sir? Oh, wait, wrong one. Jim, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Did I screw something up, sir?
Yeah, it's actually J.L. Curtis, not Jim Curtis.
Ah, okay, I'm sorry. So is that the best way to find you at Amazon, J.L. Curtis?
Yeah.
Okay, my mistake. J.L. Curtis, if you want to find his books. Since you're here, though, maybe you can confirm for me. You've written a bunch of books. How many books have you written?
Right now I'm up to 10, plus I think 3 or 4 novellas, and I'm in 3 or 4 different anthologies now. Okay. I just started a new series that's Westerns, 1870s Westerns.
Okay. And that is really popular right now because I've had one Western author on a number of times already, Terrence McCauley, and he's making great inroads in Westerns. And I told him why, and I'm sure you know why, and I'm going to tell everybody here why. Because people are tired of the bullshit in their lives. People want escapism. They want to forget a lot of the crap that's going on right now. And Westerns kind of harken back to the days where a lot of things just made sense. Or am I kind of, am I wrong about that, Jim?
No, you're exactly right. And the other thing that's interesting is the number of people that want a shorter what I would term beach read.
Okay.
They want something that they can sit down and read in one sitting. And that is your typical Western. They are normally 50 to 60,000 words. They're not the 100,000, 150,000 word tomes that are a lot of what you see out there these days.
And they're there for entertainment and escapism.
Exactly. Right.
And
you have the good guys and the bad guys.
And things are a lot more clear back then, which is what
yes,
I think
people
are thirsting for that. Now, I was about to make what I considered in retrospect a really stupid statement and then didn't make it, but I'll say it now. I was about to say, hey, remember back in the times of 29, in the Depression, when movies were really, really popular? You know, movies should step up, and then I realized, oh no, Hollywood has shot itself in the head, and you can't even go to damn movies anymore without being lectured to by the woke child mob, with a couple of exceptions. So movies aren't making it anymore. So it's got to be books. It's got to be some form of entertainment. Leftists have absconded with entertainment, much of sports, almost all movies. And so books are almost the last bastion of escapism, unless you get in a 4x4 and drive up the mountain roads and get out and pitch a tent and watch the sky at night.
That in a nutshell is it, BZ. And the truly sad part is that many of the books being published today are message fiction.
Oh, yes.
They are not fun reads.
No.
They are, literally to the point of the Hugos. And I hate to bring that up. But the Hugos, are no longer good science fiction. They are run by the left. If you don't have the right wrapper on you, you aren't the right sex, you aren't the right this, that, or the other, and you don't write the right message fiction, you're not even in consideration.
Publishing today must be very difficult. With this caveat, though, you are essentially self-published, are you not, Jim Curtis?
Correct.
And you go through Amazon, but Amazon, or I don't know, you should tell me, when you submit a book for publication and you have roughly 10 of the downed tree variety, does Amazon get involved and say, oh, you can't say that, you can't do this, and it can't be about that?
No.
Okay.
Amazon, I publish through Kindle, which is Amazon. So I publish a dead tree and also a Kindle ebook. They do not cross-check anything on them other than formatting and make sure that I actually have the copyright.
Okay.
What I publish is up to me.
And
that's the
God.
benefit. That's both the good and the bad as far as Amazon. Because right now there are over 2 million books in Amazon. 2 million.
Yeah.
Now, those of us that are independent authors, we don't have the funding for the advertising that the big boys have, but also most of us don't charge anywhere from $14 to $16 for an ebook.
Right.
We make ours reasonable. But advertising is really the key. Advertising and reviews. And that's where folks like y'all that give us honest reviews, and that's what we want, is honest reviews. You're the ones that actually do our advertising for us by giving us those reviews. And that's really the make or break. We've talked, I've been on your show a couple of times to talk about the various books. But what I would say is that the chance today of finding an enjoyable read is probably higher now than it has been since the 60s.
Okay, are you saying it's easier to find a good book?
Yes, because there are people out there that are writing in the different genres. And if you can do a little searching, you can find something that'll catch your interest.
Okay.
It's not like you're locked into what the big five are publishing and nothing else.
Okay.
It's the guys like Larry Correa, friends of mine like Alma Boykin, Cedar Sanderson, Pam Uphoff, Mona Lisa Foster, Peter Grant, Dorothy Grant. They write fun books. They're not trying to get through what we call a slush pile of 600, 700, 800 books, 800 manuscripts to get to one publisher to maybe get published. Or maybe the publisher looks at it and goes, this isn't bad, but I'll publish you in a year or 2 years. Just to give you one example, Steve Sterling, wrote a great book called Peshawar Lancers. And I believe he wrote it for either Tor or Ace a number of years ago.
I've picked up some of his books.
Everybody wants Steve to write a second one, a sequel to Peshawar Lancers. But the company that owns the rights will not allow him to write a book. So even though the fan base wants it, he wants to do it, the publisher has that much control because they own the IP with the contract they wrote him. So he cannot even write a book that's being requested.
Doesn't that then, Jim Curtis, by the way, folks, I'm talking to Jim Curtis. We will get to the audio of the video. I'm talking to Jim Curtis, that's okay. That's okay. I like it when people call. That's why God gave me 2 hours to do a radio show, and it's mine, and I can do it any damn way I want. But the thing about this is, would that not, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, does that not bespeak volumes about if you really want to get your stuff out, and you got good stuff, and the purchasing will indicate whether you really do, in fact, have good stuff, isn't it more free, I guess I could say, to self-publish than to go through a publisher and have somebody else own your content?
Yes. That is definitely true because at least as a self-publisher, I control my content. Nobody else does.
And the other thing,
I control the rights to that.
Yeah, bingo. Exactly, the rights to it. Because I've seen...
That's where it gets squirrely, is you get people that, and some of the contracts that are coming out are just absolute horror stories. Where the publisher wants you to sign over the IP, they want you to sign over any movie rights or anything else to them so that they have total control. So in other words, if they sold it to Hollywood, they would get the money, not you. And oh, by the way, the publishers today will pay you between 3 and 7% per copy.
Okay.
So
I didn't anticipate this.
Not a lot.
No, I didn't anticipate this, but you're being here tonight and talking about books and publishing. I'm getting information, and we're getting information about the publishing world that otherwise, air quotes, big authors would never tell you about because they don't want to be kicked to the curb by the, quote, big publishing houses, unquote. So I've spoken to any number of authors, and when you get to the point where you start to address issues involving publishing, I found out that's when they clam the hell up. And they're not going to tell you about that. They're not going to tell you about the world of publishing. And I've discovered that authors are generally a very insular crew, but they can hold a damn secret much better than the Hells Angels or cops. The axiom, 2 Hells Angels can hold a secret if one is dead. I don't know. Authors do a damn good job of that because they will not speak evil or wrong or even sideways of their publishers. But in any event, I got to get to the audio. Before I go, though, now is a perfect time to tell people about your books, because you've got about 4 or 5 in a series involving your protagonist, who either is or was in law enforcement and the military. Now, what is that series, and how many books do you have on that?
That's the Gray Man series.
Bingo.
It's John Cronin. It's cops versus the cartel down on the Texas border. All the guns are right. The shooting is right. I don't write perfect characters, so he makes mistakes. I have a military science fiction series with 3 books in that called RimWorld. And again, that's not perfect characters. They're people that are real. They make mistakes. They do things right. They do things wrong. And, of course, the Western is the latest one. So I didn't mean to hijack the show, BZ, but it's damn good to hear you back on the air, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. J.L. Curtis, if you go to Amazon. Oh, hey, are you still there, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the name of your Western?
It's called the Gray Man series.
Okay, that's the Western that you just wrote?
Oh, no, the Western is called the Bell Chronicles.
Bell Chronicles. Okay, let's promote that. Because, folks, if you like Westerns from Terrence McCauley, you would like, I would expect, a Western by Jim Curtis. He is there. You can find him under J.L. Curtis at Amazon. I have almost all of his books. I'll have to go get the Western. And so, hey, thank you for calling. No, that's okay. Dude, I like this. This is fun when I get to address a topic that I wasn't expecting. This is great. This is off-the-cuff radio. This is why I do this.
Well, that's what it makes it interesting.
I think so.
It's kind of like doing a live stream. You never know what's liable to happen.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I don't do podcasts. I like live stuff. And I cannot lie.
Well, that's why, Eddie, people like us break the rules.
Yeah, that's true.
We look at the rules and go, yeah, never mind. All right, we're going to do this my way.
All right.
I
like that.
I'll shut up, hang up, and let you get back to your show.
Thank you.
And I'll kick back and listen.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Great to talk to you, BZ. Take care.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Bye-bye.
J.L. Curtis, go to Amazon, find his books. I hadn't anticipated that, but that's okay. That's cool. I enjoy that kind of stuff. If you have something to add to the show yourself, unfortunately, I do not yet have an 800 number. When I get moved to an actual free state, one of the things I'm going to do for the show is attempt to grab an 800 or a 900 or a toll-free number so people can call and not have to worry about long-distance fees. So if you want to call in, you got something to say, especially after this video, 575-208-4481. If you're in the chat room, there's only one chat room, obviously, SHRmedia.com, and while I'm doing that, I got to tell you about something else that just happened. Okay, so I'm putting in the chat room, if you want to call about something, weigh in, or you have a question or a comment, there it is in the chat room, 575-208-4481. If you happen to hear, I didn't hear this until a couple of days ago. Last week when I did a show, my wife is in a different area. And I didn't, until I listened to the show later, I didn't realize that people were popping off guns next door or almost next door, because I could hear pack, 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 pack in the background while I was doing my show. So on that note, if you hear clunk, clunkety clunk in the background now, it's because the dogs are going in and out of the dog door. Because it's in my wife's living room now. Okay? 575-208-4481. Gosh, is it a half hour yet? Yeah, I'm late, damn it. Okay, I'm going to do a promo, and then we'll be right back, and I will play the video. I swear it. I swear I will play the video. God, you guys are relentless. Absolutely relentless.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Wave with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Thursday, on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGAbook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. The first half hour is gone. Thanks to J.L. Curtis for being here and talking to us. I'm BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. You're listening to the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, where I am no longer in the SHR Media studios downtown, but the one about 7 miles south of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Mill Mill, the Belly of the Beast, the Capitol building in Sacramento at 10th and L Streets. Folks, you can follow me on Twitter at BZEP. I am very, very active on Twitter in terms of social media at BZEP, at BZEP. If you would, pretty please share the show tonight. If you're listening on Spreaker, hit share. I will no longer be doing shows on video. Shows until I move will be here on Spreaker, audio only. So just thought I'd tell you about that. I'm going to play this next cut, and I'm not going to make any comments. I will come back and then comment after it. I will let you know, because it's mostly a video cut, about names that are displayed on the screen. But once you hear this about coronavirus, this will explain much to you, and you will say something similar to, you know, because I'm a normal, well-educated human being, I suspected that this was what was occurring all along. Enough, let's get to the audio. This is David E. Martin, Ph.D., National Intelligence Analyst,
I'm the developer of linguistic
founder
genomics,
of IQ 1000,
on which you could determine the intent of communication rather than the literal artifact of communication. But we've also used that technology for a number of other applications in defense and intelligence and finance, and most notably, in the early 2000s, my company was responsible for bringing down what was, at the time, one of the largest tax frauds in U.S. history. We maintained a series of inquiries into every individual, every organization and every company that is involved in anything that either blurs the line of biological and chemical weapons or crosses that line in any of 168 countries. In 1999, there were 1 million patents digitized by IBM, and those 1 million patents were the first time human innovation had been put into an electronic digital searchable format. We took that information and we did a very simple exercise using our linguistic genomics technology, where I made the horrific assessment that approximately 1/3 of all patents filed in the United States were functional forgeries, meaning that while they had linguistic variations, they actually covered the same subject matter. In 1999, patents on coronavirus started showing up, and thus began the rabbit trail.
March 2003. Panic grips Hong Kong as a deadly new virus sweeps through the city.
In 2003, the Center for Disease Control saw the possibility of a gold strike, and that was the coronavirus outbreak that happened in Asia. They saw that a virus they knew could be easily manipulated was something that was very valuable, and in 2003 they sought to patent it. And they made sure that they controlled the proprietary rights to the disease, to the virus, and to its detection, and all of the measurement of it. We know that Anthony Fauci, that Ralph Berserk, that the Center for Disease Control, and the laundry list of people who wanted to take credit for inventing coronavirus were at the hub of this story. From 2003 to 2018, they controlled 100% of the cash flow that built the empire around the industrial complex of coronavirus.
The World Health Organization has officially named the novel coronavirus
the novel coronavirus outbreak.
The World Health Organization is a pandemic,
an international public health emergency.
While we know that the coronavirus manipulation started with Dr. Ralph Berserk in 1999.
The major characteristics of SARS, MERS, and SARS coronavirus 2. It's a good way for you.
Ralph Berserk is the researcher at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who's famous for his chimeric coronavirus research. In 2002, there was a recognition that the coronavirus was seen as an exploitable mechanism for both good and ill. On April the 25th, 2003, the U.S. Center for Disease Control filed a patent on the coronavirus transmitted to humans. Under 35 U.S. Code Section 101, nature is prohibited from being patented. Either SARS coronavirus was manufactured, therefore making a patent on it legal, or it was natural, therefore making a patent on it illegal. If it was manufactured, it was a violation of biological and chemical weapons, treaties, and laws. If it was natural, filing a patent on it was illegal. In either outcome, both are illegal. In the spring of 2007, the CDC filed a petition with the Patent Office to keep their application confidential and private. They actually filed patents on not only the virus, but they also filed patents on its detection and a kit to measure it. Because of that CDC patent, they had the ability to control who was authorized and who was not authorized to make independent inquiries into coronavirus. You cannot look at the virus, you cannot measure it, you cannot develop a test kit for it. And by ultimately receiving the patents that constrained anyone from using it, they had the means, they had the motive, and most of all, they had the monetary gain from turning coronavirus from a pathogen to profit.
Developing and owning a coronavirus vaccine has become a biotech arms race with political overtones.
This vaccine gold rush is starting to bother me. Gold rush. Let's keep that in mind.
And so somewhere between 2012 and 2013, something happened. The federal funding for research that was feeding into places like Harvard, Emory, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that funding suddenly became impaired by something that happened at the NIH, where the NIH got this little tiny moment of clarity and said, I think something we're doing is wrong. And in 2013, the NIH said gain-of-function research on coronavirus should be suspended. The National Institutes of Health had a moral and social and potentially legal reason to object to research. But the letters that were sent to the researchers essentially said, you are receiving notice that we're telling you to stop. And now on the bottom of the page, we're going to clarify what stop means. Keep going. But when the heat gets hot in 2014 and 15, what do? You offshore the research. You fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology to do the stuff that sounds like it's getting a little edgy with respect to its morality and legality. But do you do it straight way? No. You run the money through a series of cover organizations to make it look like you're funding a U.S. operation, which then subcontracts with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The U.S. could say, China did it. China could say, the U.S. did it. And the cool thing is, both of them are almost telling the truth.
Didn't you already intuit much of that information? But in my opinion, it puts all of that together. So in summary, the CDC is about cash. Now, you already knew this. This should be nothing new. And the CDC holds patents because that's how you make the money. Someone realized that maybe we shouldn't be doing it here on U.S. soil, but we still want it because you can manipulate it and do whatever you wish with it, and we own it, which means you can't look at it, which means you can't question anything that the CDC does, but it's just like the Democrat Party. What does the Democrat Party do? They create a program, and then after having created the program, or create the problem, they offer a solution. So the CDC essentially has done the same. They've created a program, one by which they will and have made money, and certain individuals make sure that money gets sent to continue the research, which equals power and control, but it just gets offshored. And it's your United States taxpayer dollars that are funding all of this. Now that, in my opinion, that's not going to stay around very long. Old NFO in chat is saying, lost the audio. Folks, did you lose the audio on Spreaker? Because right now it looks as though I'm monitoring Spreaker and it looks as if it's working. If you have lost the audio completely, please see if you can restart and then let me know if you've lost the audio because I've got more information. I told you last time, but I'm going to refresh your memory about this. Okay, Jack Alexander says audio is fine here. Okay, so just refresh. Thank you, Jack. I told you about this, and I'm going to tell you about this again, because almost anything and everything that I can think about involving Wuhan-19 is conspiratorial, but certainly not on our end, that is to say... Oh, Mike on chat says audio is good. Great, thank you for the updates, folks. Appreciate it. But you can see how corrupt all of this is, including OSHA. OSHA, as I indicated on my last show, doesn't want you to know about Wuhan-19 vaccine issues. Now, they couch it this way. This is from the Epoch Times. In order to encourage American workers to get vaccinated, the OSHA, your Occupational Safety and Health Administration, has suspended the legal requirement for employers to report work-related injuries resulting from vaccinations aimed at combating Wuhan-19, which causes the disease COVID-19. So you see what the United States is already doing. They don't want to compile the information that when I was working for the Sheriff's Department, if I had one of my employees that was injured on duty at work, I had to file a report from OSHA. That was a federal and a state mandate, and I couldn't get around it. And if I avoided it or fabricated information, I was in trouble, federally and in terms of state law as well. OSHA. OSHA, on a federal level, is making sure that you don't even know. They're not even going to gather the information about vaccines. And that's how you stop information from getting out. And that's why I also wanted to make sure that I played that video, the audio of which you just heard. You don't know, and it changes from day to day, week to week, as to what is truly accurate or not. And that is one of the primary reasons I choose as a free American individual not to get the vaccine. Now, if you have taken the vaccine, good on you. That's your choice. And it shouldn't be forced. That choice should not be forced on people. There's a bill that just got introduced by a Republican on a federal level in Congress trying to indicate that there will be no vaccine passports in the United States. Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. Then the WHO, and you're not supposed to know this, you're not supposed to hear this, the WHO says children should not receive COVID-19 vaccines. But the way they write these stories is that's not how they couch this. So the World Health Organization publishes a revised advice and advisory not long ago, 3 days ago, on June 21st. Now, it clarifies which populations should receive COVID-19 vaccines. The WHO's website now states children should not be vaccinated for the moment. That's from the WHO website. People have been removed from social media by quoting the WHO, who prior to, that was what the social media absolutely embraced. Whatever it is the WHO says, that's what we're going, that's the standard to which we will hold everyone. And if you say anything bad about the WHO, you're gone. Now social media won't let you hear about this. This is a quote from the WHO. This quote is getting people removed from social media. This is a quote. There is not yet enough evidence on the use of vaccines against COVID-19 in children to make recommendations for children to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Children and adolescents tend to have milder disease compared to adults. However, children should continue to have the recommended childhood vaccines. Okay. Now, the WHO said COVID-19 vaccines are safe for most people 18 years and older, including those with pre-existing conditions of any kind. You know who determines that? You do. You're an adult, and especially in the United States, you're an American. And you're free for the time being. Wake up and listen. Get all the information that you can. Information is not one-sided. Science is not one-sided. Doctors practice medicine. They don't know medicine. There is no one way to do something in medicine. It's a doctor's practice. There is no one way to do thing in science. Scientists apply the scientific method in order to make discoveries. Smart scientists are willing to bend and change when new discoveries emerge. It's as simple as that. Now it's time. Let me see if I can get this to work. God, I wish I had a producer. Because now, what I'm going to tell you about the FBI, it's from this.
Tales from the You Can't Write This Shit department. Graciously presented by BZ. Here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Revolver.com had a wonderful expose recently, June 14th. Go to revolver.com if you want to read it for yourself. I'm going to go over the bulk of this article because it's so necessary. This is the article from which almost every leftist, Democrat, and American media maggot eschewed and wouldn't let you know about. Some of the people on Fox talked about it, not all. And Fox, of course, is not the end-all and be-all of your source of information. Be a smart consumer of news. Caveat emptor. Look that up. It's Latin. If anybody wants to call, by the way, 575-208-4481. But now it's time to talk about the Revolver article that so many people aren't talking about. The headline is, unindicted co-conspirators in January 6th cases raise disturbing questions of federal foreknowledge. Well, when they're talking about federal, they're talking about the FBI. And foreknowledge means, to me, that someone somewhere may have had the ability to stop that from happening. So it goes like this. Of all the questions asked, words spoken, and ink spilled. By the way, I'm going to tell you tonight, and this is another reason that I can't do it on video, because this would definitely have it removed. I will tell you, in my opinion, who shot Ashley Babbitt. The story goes like this. Of all the questions asked, words spoken, and ink spilled on the so-called Capitol siege of January 6th, none hold the key to the entire event, quite like what Senator Amy Klobuchar asked of Christopher Wray. The Democrat from Minnesota asked the Trump-appointed FBI director, did the federal government infiltrate any of the so-called militia organizations claimed to be responsible for planning and executing the Capitol siege? And this is what we got.
Show up, we now know, in this complaint with encrypted two-way Chinese radios and military gear, that there must be moments where you think, if we would have known, if we could have infiltrated this group or found out what they were doing. And that, do you have those moments?
Absolutely. I will tell you, Senator, and this is something I feel passionately about, that anytime there's an attack, our standard at the FBI is we aim to bat 1,000, right? And we aim to thwart every attack that's out there. So anytime there's an attack, especially one that's this horrific, that strikes right at the heart of our system of government, right at the time the transfer of power is being discussed, you can be darn tootin' that we are focused very, very hard on how can we get better sources, better information, better analysis, so that we can make sure that something like what happened on January 6th never happens again.
Okay, so he said thwart. His goal is to stop that from occurring. Those are his words. That's what he said. Would it shock you to realize that perhaps that's not exactly the way things turned out? Hence the Revolver article. Christopher Wray is able to uncomfortably weasel his way out of answering the question directly, partially because Klobuchar does him the courtesy of not asking him the question directly. Klobuchar instead says and asks the FBI director if he wishes that he had infiltrated the military organizations or the militia organizations allegedly involved in January 6th, assuming from the outset that there was, in fact, no infiltration, therefore providing the FBI director. That's an easy out. That's an easy way to avoid addressing the question one way or another. So Revolver News decided to take this on. And they decided they wanted to ask three pertinent questions. The first one is, in the year leading up to January 6th and during January 6th itself, to what extent were the three primary militia groups, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and the 3%ers, that the FBI, DOJ, Pentagon, and Network News have labeled most responsible for planning and executing a Capitol attack on January 6th? To what degree were they infiltrated by agencies of the federal government or informants of said agencies? Question 1. Question 2. Exactly how many federal undercover agents or confidential informants, CIs, were present at the Capitol or in the Capitol during the infamous siege, and what roles did they play? Were they passive or were they active instigators? That's the second question. The third question is, finally, of all the unindicted co-conspirators referenced in the charging documents of those indicted for crimes on January 6th, how many of those worked as CIs, confidential informants, or as an undercover operative for the federal government, the FBI, Army counterintelligence, or etc.? From now on, all discussions of January 6th have to give way to a laser-like focus on the questions above, with an unwavering persistence at obtaining the answers. If the narrative about January 6th doesn't conform to the questions above, the American people will never learn the most important truth about what January 6th is and what kind of country they are really living in. Now, stop just for a moment. We already know that Pelosi is pushing for a January 6th commission. Because as far as they were concerned, and some people said this, January 6th was just like 9/11. What kind of country do we have? One of the key consensus points among the FBI and DOJ and the regime media is the idea that while January 6th is primarily the fault of Trump supporting QAnon-infused domestic terrorists, it is secondarily the fault of so-called intelligence failures. Now, I've said this for a long time, and I will continue to say it because it is true. And I'm of the age that I don't really give a shit anymore. I'll say this again. Let there be no mistake. I love my country, but I abjure its leftist leaders and anybody who won't put America and its lawful citizens first. Obey the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, uphold the rule of law, and embrace due process. If that makes me an extremist, then okay, so be it. That's the point at where we are in this country, where you have to state this. And if that makes me an extremist loving my country and embracing the founding documents, then okay, all right, I will live with that. And I bet a bunch of you here will too. So Klobuchar's own question, that was on March 2nd, 2021, that FBI hearing, reinforces this intelligence failure narrative. But she's not alone. There was that 5-month, quote, bipartisan Senate investigation that recently arrived at the very same, quote, intelligence failure narrative to explain the breach of the Capitol and associated events on January 6th. ABC News said a bipartisan Senate investigation of the deadly January 6th insurrection, stop, deadly, There was only one person killed there. Other persons had medical issues, including the officer who died there. The only person who was killed was Ashley Babbitt. Perhaps this is a good time to move over here and tell you this. I have information. This is my opinion, but I get to give my opinion. And I'll tell you why it's not common knowledge. Information that I have indicates the Capitol cop who murdered Ashley Babbitt is identified as a guy named Michael Leroy Byrd. This was confirmed by a guy named Taylor Hansen. Lieutenant Michael Leroy Byrd. Now, he says multiple mainstream media outlets know this, have known this, but they refuse to run the story. Lieutenant Michael Byrd is black. Ashley Babbitt is white. In a building that is festooned with cameras, but yet those cameras and whatever footage or video is from those cameras is not going to be released. You look at some of these videos and you look at some of the stills from these videos, and because I was a range master for a 2,000 to 3,000 plus deputy department, it appears to me quite clearly Michael Byrd has no trigger discipline. He was pointing his firearm at his colleagues right before he shot Ashley Babbitt. USCP, the U.S. Capitol Police, Lieutenant Michael Byrd, is the commander of the House Chamber. Now, in a lot of these videos, you can see that there is a pistol in what I believe to be Lieutenant Byrd's hand on the House floor. It's the same type of model, Glock 20, that was used to shoot and kill Ashley Babbitt. Byrd was wearing a bracelet. You can see the bracelet. According to this guy Hansen, the picture was taken, there's a picture of Michael Byrd from LinkedIn. He's scrubbed the internet of almost all of these things. But yet, Fox, Newsmax, all of these outlets have had access to the information. They have done nothing with it. Why is that? Michael Byrd, by the way, is not working. And he's not staying at his residence either. And you can't know his name. It will not be officially released. How does the federal government get away with not releasing the name of a shooter who kills an unarmed American? Black or white, pink, purple, or burnt umber. How does that happen? When every law enforcement agency around the nation has to disclose one way or another eventually the information of every shooter, of every shooting. I'll tie it up for you right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Come listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, for the best in late-night conservatarian wireless talk radio at shrmedia.com. Raised as a free-range child with dirt and freedom, BZ is broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room at shrmedia.com. Now, with 18% more umbrage and 20% more bulbosity than previous shows, and with delicious Liberty additives. Remember, BZ realizes that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. The beginning of the second hour. The first hour flew by. I played a video which indicated quite clearly where the coronavirus came from, how the CDC is implicated, how Dr. Fauci is implicated, how it all dovetails together that, well, they couldn't do the experimentation necessary air quotes, that they wanted in the United States, so they decided they were going to ship it overseas because hashtag why not? And so they did. By the way,
folks, this is BZ's final hour. Step up. Last call for alcohol.
That's the name of that tune. Then I was talking about the FBI from the article revolver.com. And then I gave you the name that I believe is the shooter of Ashley Babbitt. And Jan in chat says shooter's last name Bird or Bird. That is correct. Now, back in 2019, according to Fox News, this is from Fox, a U.S. Capitol Police officer was under review after somehow he managed to leave his Glock 22 pistol inside the bathroom of the Capitol in the visitor center. Now, Lieutenant Mike Bird forgot to take the weapon with him upon leaving the restroom, and it was found during a routine security sweep later in the day. Officials told Roll Call. The department takes these matters very seriously and has a very thorough process to investigate and review incidents such as these and holds personnel accountable for their actions, Capitol Police spokeswoman Eve Malecki said. Following the investigation's conclusion, appropriate actions will be taken in accordance with the department's official policies and procedures. Bird is the leader of the House Chambers section of the department unit that was reportedly back on the job in the days after the incident. He allegedly told his colleagues he will be treated differently because of his rank, sources told Roll Call, although it wasn't immediately clear what he meant by that comment. That's from Fox News. Then, according to the Daily Wire, Babbitt's family is going to sue for the name. Why should you have to sue for the name when every other department in the United States is hounded to release names involving shootings, much less a homicide, which involved Ashley Babbitt in the Capitol? The only person killed by violent activity was an individual operating under the guise of the federal government, shooting and having killed an unarmed white female through an open window that she did not break. Another interesting point, Bird's lawyer, a guy named Mark Schammel, is a Biden donor. Just thought I'd tell you. Oh, a Biden donor who represents a guy named Igor Danchenko, who's the primary subsource of that discredited Steele dossier on Trump. That pretty much tells you, I think, all you need to know. So, in America today, you got a black police officer shooting an unarmed white conservative woman. Seems to have a much different criteria than a white cop shooting a drugged-up felon resisting arrest. You have a right to know everything about that. You have no right to know who shot Ashley Babbitt. None. No right. But now you know. And now you know why. It does not fit the narrative. And you're going to have to sue them to get the name. Only if the suit is successful will you officially know. Officially, that's not been released. I'm telling you, that's my opinion of who it is. But you're a free citizen. Go assemble all of this information for yourself. So if it turns out that the federal government, the FBI, Army counterintelligence, or somebody else had undercover agents or confidential informants embedded in any of the groups involved in January 6th, the federal intelligence agencies failing to warn of a potential for violence looks less like an innocent mistake and more like something really purposeful. As Revolver wrote, something sinister. So indeed, if the federal government knew of a potential for violence in or around the Capitol on January 6th and failed to call for heightened security, the agencies responsible may in fact be legally liable for the damages incurred during that day. It is unsettling to entertain the possibility that the federal government knew of a potential for violence on January 6th and did nothing to stop it. It presents the question, why would agencies or certain elements within sit back and let something like this happen on purpose? Do they not have an idea of what may occur? It's shocking. Either they're that stupid or that conniving. It can't be anything in between. They're either that conniving and plotting and politically biased, or they're that stupid, that daft. No point in between. A still more disturbing possibility arises from a careful study of the unindicted co-conspirators listed throughout the various charging documents of individuals facing the most serious charges relating to January 6th. Now they go this way. They write, "We at Revolver News have noticed a pattern from our now months-long investigation into January 6th, and in particular from our meticulous study of the charging documents related to those indicted. In many cases, the unindicted co-conspirators appear to be much more aggressive and egregious participants in the very so-called conspiracy serving as the basis for charging those indicted." The question immediately arises as to why this is the case and forces us to consider whether certain individuals are being protected from indictment because they were involved in January 6th as undercover operatives or confidential informants for a federal agency. So then they indicate, well, here it is useful to draw a distinction between the two discrete categories of participants in the so-called Capitol siege. What Democrats, leftists, and the American media maggots are calling the Capitol insurrection. The first category, and this is true, this is the bulk of folks, are mostly harmless tourists who walked through already opened doors and already removed barricades. There's video of all of this. USCP officers removing the barricades and allowing people to walk through. And at most, they were guilty of minor trespassing charges and light property offenses. The second group consists of those who were violent with police officers, broke down barricades, smashed windows, belonged to a militia group engaged in military-style planning prior to the event, discussed transporting heavy weaponry, and so forth. You do that, you should be arrested. That's not difficult to figure. up until now, the overwhelming, perhaps exclusive share of counter-establishment reporting on January 6th focused on absolving the first group. That's a valuable thing. The notion that these harmless mega moms wandering around the Capitol were domestic terrorists engaged in an insurrection is absurd. That many of these people are being held in prison without bail under harsh conditions. Some are being held 23 hours a day with 1 hour to get out. That's what you do to asshole parolees and felons in Pelican Bay, which is the state of California. Always spell it with a K. Most serious prison. You have to work to get into Pelican Bay. You have to already have killed people. You have to already have killed staff, to killed fellow inmates. And yet people awaiting a judge are being installed into these conditions, under harsh conditions. And that amounts to an unacceptable and an outrageous abuse of basic human rights. But Revolver writes, the possibility that the federal government has undercover operatives or informants involved in the events from January 6th, from its planning to its execution, compels us to turn our attention to the second category of participants. We are especially interested in the unindicted co-conspirators who belong to any of the big three militia groups: the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and the 3%ers. Indeed, it is these militia groups whose behavior, statements, and planning leading up to and during January 6th most closely align with the, quote, violent insurrectionist caricature we hear about in the media, and which the government claims to be going after in its aggressive prosecutions. Now, if it turns out that an extraordinary percentage of the members of these groups involved in planning and executing the Capitol siege were federal informants or undercover operatives, the implications would be nothing short of staggering. This would be far worse than the already bad situation of the government knowing about the possibility of violence and doing nothing. Didn't we hear Christopher Wray in the cut that I played for you say that his job is to thwart that? He said that. Instead, this would imply that elements of the federal government were active instigators in the most egregious and spectacular aspects of January 6th, amounting to a monumental entrapment scheme used as a pretext to imprison otherwise harmless protesters at the Capitol, and in a much larger sense used to frame the entire MAGA movement as potential domestic terrorists. Stop. Because of what we know that occurred in the past 5 years, with President Donald Trump, would you put anything past the FBI of that nature? As I've said and written on any number of occasions, basically the FBI now, and it's clear, especially since Comey, especially during Comey, that the FBI is nothing but the weaponized propaganda arm of the DNC. We kind of suspected that all along, but now it's out in the open. They have no shame. They can lie about it all along, and no one is held culpable or responsible. So basically the deal is, getting back to the article in short, what did the federal government know in advance about January 6th? When did they know it? And how far did any undercover operatives go? Of course, we could point to countless examples in Americans' history of undercover agents and informants being actively involved in various, quote, domestic terror plots, unquote. But for the purposes of the argument we're making here, we need only go back to a few months prior to January 6th to the so-called Whitmer kidnapping plot, parenthesis, which was a bunch of bullshit. Indeed, what if we told you that scarcely 3 months before the January 6th Capitol siege, the FBI arrested 14 people for planning to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and overthrow the state government, and that the alleged conspiracy to overthrow the state government involved storming of the U.S. Capitol? And what if we told you that of the 14 individuals who allegedly plotted the kidnapping and overthrow of the state government, at least 5 were undercover agents and federal informants. Well, if that's not enough, many of the individuals allegedly involved in this plot appear to belong to the 3%ers, and one of the very same militia groups now blamed for storming January 6th. Oh, as Revolver writes, and the cherry on top, what if we told you that the director of the Detroit FBI field office, who oversaw the infiltration operation of the Michigan plot, was subsequently granted a highly coincidental promotion to the D.C. office, where he's now the lead FBI agent for all January 6th cases? Well, as crazy as that sounds, it's all true. A full account of the Michigan plot and its parallels to the Capitol siege runs outside the scope and purposes of this article. Nonetheless, it'll be useful to briefly flesh out some of the most salient details alluded to above. The left-wing blog Jacobin, of all places, provided a good description of the allegation and charges. You can continue through in this article. There's a lot in this article about the Michigan plot, about Christopher Wray, about the DOJ, about the DOJ's standard of prosecution, the method of indictments themselves. It's an excellent article. Go to revolver.com. Revolver.com. And the title of the article is Unindicted Co-Conspirators in January 6 Cases Raised Disturbing Questions of Federal Foreknowledge. And what you will determine is that the federal government, via CIs and informants, knew exactly what was happening and let it go. But you're not supposed to hear that, and only Revolver exposed that information. Then you have to ask yourself another question. Why is the government hiding that January 6th video footage? There are probably more cameras in the U.S. Capitol than any other building I can think of immediately, except, I don't know, perhaps the White House. The American public still doesn't know exactly what happened on January 6th. So why is the U.S. government, still getting in the way and trying to use any means necessary to make sure that that video footage doesn't come out? Because the first question a rational thinking human being should be asking is why? Joe Biden called that the worst attack since the Civil War. Oh, please. Attorney General Merrick Garland compares it to the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. Right, where one unarmed white chick was shot and killed by a black lieutenant at the U.S. Capitol Police. You can't know his name. You can't know anything about it. You can't know the circumstances, and you can't see the footage. And by the way, we cleared his ass, too. Stop asking about it. The FBI is breaking down the doors of Iraq War veterans and small business owners who have no criminal records, and some of them are hauled off to rot in solitary confinement in D.C. jails for their involvement in that alleged travesty. It was about a 4-hour-long disturbance at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Mostly nonviolent Americans dared to protest Congress's certification of a clearly fraudulent presidential election in a place that was once considered the people's house. Oh, wasn't it Hillary Clinton that said you have a duty to protest? You have a duty to mouth off. But have we seen a full and fair depiction of exactly what happened that day? The answer is, as clearly evidenced by an ongoing cover-up by the U.S. Capitol Police and Justice Department, no. Why? You know why. I don't have to tell you why. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. You want to hear another lie? I've got this on audio. So Andy McCabe talks about the congressional baseball shooting. And he's a paid consultant on CNN. Oh, stop just for a second. What do I have? I got 4 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. Speaking of CNN, are you guys aware, and not just on Brian Stelter's show, CNN, from January of this year to now, has lost 3 out of 4 viewers. Let me translate for those of you who are bad at math like me. That means since January of this year, CNN has lost 75% of its viewership. And CNN chugs merrily right along. Andy McCabe has the gall on CNN to say, and this is a quote, the FBI still doesn't know what that shooter was up to. The guy who shot the representative. What? Yeah.
I thought it was significant. The Attorney General said very clearly that the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat right now comes from racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists. He's talking about white supremacists. But he also took care to note extremism and attacks on all political parties, on all races and creeds and religions. He noted the congressional baseball practice that was attacked only after the gunman had asked if they were Republicans. I thought it was significant.
Yeah, the guy who shot Steve Scalise, a Republican, no problem.
Did you think that was significant that he raised this?
Yeah, it was, Kate, and an incredibly deft way to bring in that other side of the equation. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? I think he came right out and said, you know, our biggest hotspot right now is racially motivated, ethnically motivated extremists, and we all know that the broad majority of those are white supremacists, people targeting people of color and immigrants and things like that. But he brought the other side of the equation into it by referring to the shooting of the congressional baseball practice. And he did it very carefully by saying a shooting by someone who committed the shooting only after he confirmed that the players were Republicans. So
that's true. He did. And it was known clearly that the guy was a leftist and a Bernie Sanders supporter. Well, that doesn't lend any credence to political motivation, does it?
I think that reflects the fact that the FBI still doesn't exactly know what that shooting...
We're the FBI! We don't know why that guy was shot. We can't figure that shit out. We are that stupid. No, you're that stupid if you believe the bullshit they're laying out.
...was up to. They never really uncovered the sort of detailed evidence that laid out a specific plot or an objective, but it is undeniable.
No evidence. I guess you didn't look at that guy's social media. I guess you don't consider statements anymore, do you? And you wonder why we're losing this country. Wonder no more.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick Ubellis as host and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hi, this is Eric Thompson. Please check out my new Week in Review show, For Liberty's Sake, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Check out forlibertysake.com.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Wave with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please, join us 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Thursday, on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's the final half hour of the show. I was compelled to come on and do a show because of that video and because of what we discovered through Revolver. So let's talk a bit, if you will, because I'm sure you were wondering, what the hell is happening with home buying? And what the hell is going on with regard to homes? Why are they so damn expensive? Actually, it's pretty clear. There are a number of articles now that I've discovered that have a lot to do with it. Now, it's no secret that I am buying in the process of buying a house in a free state, far away from California. Always spell it with a K, because I've had it here. When that happens, when I'm finally ensconced in the new digs in a free state, and I get the show back up and running, and we're playing video and audio and all that cool stuff, I will go into great depth about why it is that I left. That's not for these times. Yet in the process of doing that, what I discovered is that if you're going to a free state, you'd better bring an assload of cash, a ready checkbook, and expect that you're not going to find much stuff available out there because it's all getting snapped up. Well, at first thought you'd be thinking, well, dummy, BZ, it's all getting snapped up because of people just like you, comma, asshole, who are trying to escape leftist enclaves like California, always spelled it with a K. Well, for the most part, you'd be kind of correct. That's not all of it by any means whatsoever. There's a site called NOQreport.com, NOQreport.com. The headline is, yes, BlackRock is buying and their home spree should concern you. What do they mean by that? This is, let's see, this is an article from June 11th of this year. The general public doesn't normally look into companies like BlackRock, the largest asset management firm on the planet with I hope you're sitting down, $9 trillion in assets. That's higher than the GDP of every nation in the world other than the U.S. and China. Well, we don't normally look into them because they're mostly invisible to normies like us. They don't advertise, and they don't have their name on a sports stadium like most other major companies. They purposely and studiously avoid that, by the way. They're happy to stay as under the table and under the radar as it's possible for a company so massively huge. But some in the general public are paying attention now following the resurface of an April Wall Street Journal article that chronicles BlackRock and other money institutions. This is what they're doing. Buying up single-family homes as quickly as they can at rates higher than the average home buyer is willing to pay. They're buying them up at a premium, and that should concern everyone, whether you're in the market to buy a home or not. First, let's talk about the non-conspiratorial issues at play. This will have 3 instant effects on the market and its economy. I'm seeing it right now. I saw it. I experienced it. It was foisted upon me. First, it's already making it harder in a scarce market for home buyers to make a purchase. Second, it is driving up prices in a self-replicating fashion. The more BlackRock and other companies overpay for homes, the higher home prices go up. And last but certainly not least, they're causing a shift from home ownership to renting, which degrades the economy for lower and middle class folks while limiting their upward financial mobility. Wait, I thought we were told by Joe Biden the middle class is getting bigger and stronger. Then he writes, now, let's get more conspiratorial. When I use the phrase conspiracy theory, by the way, I should go up here and give credit to the author. Who is this dude that wrote this? J.D. Rucker. Let's get more conspiratorial. When I use the phrase conspiracy theory, I'm not using it as a pejorative. This is absolutely spot on. If 2020 and 21 have taught us anything, it's that we need to take conspiracies seriously because they're happening right in front of our eyes. There's a Twitter conservative on, let's see, his name is @culturalhusbandry. Broke it all down and wrote this: BlackRock is buying every single family house they can find, paying 20 to 50% above asking price, and outbidding normal home buyers. Why are corporations, pension funds, and property investment groups buying entire neighborhoods out from underneath the middle class? Well, let's take a look. Homes are popping up on MLS and going under contract within a few hours. We sure as hell were discovering that. We would talk to our realtor who would say, I have a nice property at blah, blah, blah. And then she'd get back to us within half an hour, it's gone. Or she'd say something similar to, well, you know, if you want to get involved in a bidding war, they're going to have a bidding war this weekend. And then they're going to open it up and, you know, take whoever happens to have the biggest bid. So homes are popping up on MLS. They're going under contract within a few hours. And if you don't act fast, they're gone. We lost probably, conservatively speaking, 10 to 15 houses, maybe as many as 20, within the 7 days we were there looking. In a few hours, gone. A ton of those were outright cash offers. Yeah, here's a check. We're going to pay you more than you want. And there you go, there's the check. We want it. BlackRock, among others, are buying up thousands of new homes and entire neighborhoods. So who is BlackRock, this guy says? Only the world's largest asset manager and the leading proponent of the Great Reset. They're looking to redistribute, get this, $120 trillion, the entire wealth of the world's middle class and poor combined, several times over. As an example, a 124 new home neighborhood was bought in its entirety in Texas. Average Americans were outbid to a tune of $32 million. Homes sold at an average of 20% above listing. Now the entire neighborhood is made of SFRs. What's an SFR? Single-family rentals. Now, your potential lower to middle-class homeowner is positioned to be a permanent renter. This matters because for the lower and middle class, owning a home is the most major part of any financial success and future upward mobility. Without a doubt, this is wealth redistribution. And it ain't rich people's wealth that's getting redistributed. It's normal American middle class, salt of the earth, wealthy, heading into the hands of the world's most powerful entities and individuals. BlackRock, the traditional financial vehicle, is gone forever. Home equity is the main financial element that middle-class families use to build wealth. And BlackRock, listen to this, BlackRock is a Federal Reserve-funded financial institution. And it's buying up all the houses to make sure that young families can't build wealth. That's right, you heard me correctly. BlackRock is a Federal Reserve-funded financial institute. Let that percolate around your brain for a little bit. They are using your tax dollars. BlackRock is using your tax dollars to screw over the lower and middle class. And it is permanent. Not one presidential administration of bullshit. This is a fundamental reorganization of society. And it's happening right now in front of our eyes. So you have to ask yourself a question. Where does that position the average American in 30 years when it's given that every new neighborhood is going to be bought up whole so they can be utilized as SFR? Single-family renters. It positions them as peasants. They're serfs. It's a fiefdom. They're working for the lords and the ladies. Being poor can be a temporary condition bettered by upward mobility, but when this occurs, that ends. Here in the U.S. and other nations, home ownership is often the first and most vital step. This can provide for generational wealth and success, but as permanent guaranteed renters, you are pissing away a lifetime of equity and the chance for mobility. You just became a serf. When people talk about the Great Reset, it's real. It's happening. It is here right now. This is the greatest transfer of wealth and greatest consolidation of power in the history of mankind. If BlackRock and other institutions get away with this, and individuals, a revolution is going to be the only cure. I told you this is war. It's political war. Well, it's more than that now. They're coming for you. This is just in the home arena. Lloyd's Bank in London is doing it. Every great financial institute across the world is doing it. People are theorizing this is a greater threat than the slow creep of like communism or BLM or anything else you can think of combined. This is a death blow to the United States. So, and yet, this country, including General Mark Milley, that navel-gazing, unserious clown fuckwad, we're navel-gazing on things that mean nothing. BLM means nothing. There is no systemic racism in this country. There is no systemic racism in law enforcement. It's bullshit. And it's flash, shiny. Get you going. So you look over here and don't look over there. Magicians do that. They've done that for centuries. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, they control $20 trillion worth of assets. BlackRock alone has a $10 billion a year surplus. That means with 5 to 20% down, they can get mortgages on 130 to 170K, 130 to 170,000 homes every year. Or they can outright buy 30,000 homes every year. That's just BlackRock. Now imagine every major institute doing this because they are. It can be such a fast, sweeping action that 30 years may be overshooting it. They may accomplish absolute feudalism in 15 years. Now, that's just this article. Then there's an article from the Wall Street Journal. Let's see, when was this? April 4th, 2021, a little earlier, by Ryan December. Okay. Wall Street Journal. If you sell a house these days, the buyer might be a pension fund. Yield-chasing investors are snapping up single-family homes, competing with ordinary Americans and driving up prices. A bidding war broke out this winter at a new subdivision north of Houston, but the prize this time was the entire subdivision, not just a single suburban house, illustrating the rise of big investors as a potent new force in the U.S. housing market. Then D.R. Horton built 124 houses in Conroe, Texas. rented them out, and then put the whole community, Amber Pines at Foster's Ridge, on the block. So a veritable who's who of investors and home rental firms flocked to the December sale. The winning $32 million bid came from an online property investing platform, Fundrise LLC, which manages more than $1 billion on behalf of about 150,000 individuals. The country's most prolific home builder booked roughly twice what it typically makes selling homes to the middle class. An encouraging debut in the business of selling entire neighborhoods to investors. Now you have permanent capital competing with a young couple trying to buy a house, said John Burns, whose eponymous real estate consulting firm estimates that in many of the nation's top markets, roughly 1 in every 5 homes is bought by somebody who never moves in. Never moves in. That's going to make U.S. housing permanently more expensive. Then there's another story that I found in seconds. This is from oilprice.com. Oilprice.com. The Great Reset. BlackRock is fueling a 120. Oh, let's see. Oh, shit. This is from oilprice.com by Mike Danes, D-A-N-E-S. This is back on December 28th of 2020. The Great Reset. BlackRock is fueling a $120 trillion transformation on Wall Street. Big money is turning its back on companies that aren't conforming to a simple idea, sustainability. And it's fueling one of the biggest transfers of capital the world has ever seen. In fact, within a year, 77% of institutional investors will stop buying into companies that aren't, in some way, sustainable. And the new king of Wall Street is leading that charge, BlackRock. With over $7 trillion in assets under management, that's back on December 28th, says its clients will double their ESG investments in just 5 years. Money managers on the street are saying climate change is their top concern and a leading criteria when determining where they put their money to work. Sustainable assets could already account for $17.1 trillion. But there could be as much as $120 trillion up for grabs. And that's exactly why sustainable stocks are outperforming the market. So even back in December, they're saying these guys are going in, and it's going to change everything. Well, gonna change everything. Hell, it is changing everything right now. You heard the story earlier. You heard what's actually going on with coronavirus. And I told you just what's happening with regard to housing right now and why it's going nuts. And you'll notice that no one in these areas, no one on TV has the balls to say, well, they're all saying basically, oh, it's people fleeing these leftist enclaves. Yeah, okay, it's some. But it's massive investors like BlackRock who want a stranglehold on everything and don't think for a moment that they don't have an agenda. If you think they're right-leaning or conservative, oh, hell no. Serfs, peasants, proles, groundlings, that's what you're soon to become. That may be what you have conferred upon your children and your grandchildren by being a leftist and not putting your foot down. And come on, the Republicans are every bit as bad as all of these other assholes. You know, there's a reason, for example, that Republicans don't want E-Verify. It keeps their friends from employing people at a lesser wage. And it's obvious why Democrats don't want E-Verify, which could all be accomplished by the stroke of a pen, make it mandatory. That'll never happen. because both sides want something from this group. They want either cheap labor or free votes in perpetuity. It's really not any more complicated than that. What do I have left? I got 10 more minutes. I found this. I was thinking about doing the Chicago death count. This is about 2.5 minutes. You need to hear this. This is a BLM guy talking about what's actually going on in BLM. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is another reason that I'm not predominantly going to be able to do this on video anymore, other than just technologically speaking. But BLM is a racist organization. Simple as that. General Milley, embracing all of these theories, is a racist. Some of the biggest racists that I know of are white. They're Gaups. They're members of the WCM, the white woke child mob. They're Gaups, guilty, overeducated white people. You got a BLM guy, former BLM guy, telling you the truth about BLM. It ain't pretty.
I was born in Minneapolis in 1985. We called the North Side home at that time, 18th and Queen. When I was 2 years old, my father was shot and killed. My mother wasn't able to take care of me, so I was raised by my grandparents. They told me that if I was going to change my life for the better, education was the answer. So I worked hard in school. I got into Hamline University and earned a college degree, first in my family. Then I went on to earn a master's in education from St. Mary's University of Minnesota. I am living proof that no matter your start in life, quality education is a pathway to success. I want the same success for our children in our communities. That's why in 2015, I was a founder of Black Lives Matter in St. Paul. I believe the organization stood for exactly what the name implies. Black lives do matter. However, after a year on the inside, I learned they had little concern for rebuilding black families, and they cared even less about improving the quality of education for students in Minneapolis. That was made clear when they publicly denounced charter schools alongside the teachers' union. I was an insider in Black Lives Matter, and I learned the ugly truth. The moratorium on charter schools does not support rebuilding the black family, but it does create barriers to a better education for black children. I resigned from Black Lives Matter after a year and a half, but I didn't quit working to improve black lives and access to a great education. Today, I serve as the president and executive director of Minnesota Parent Union. We're dedicated to helping parents move their children from failing schools to successful schools. It's hard work, and we're up against forces that don't want us to succeed. But success is possible. Just look at me and the hundreds of children and families we've helped to pursue a great education, break the chains of poverty, and lead a life of success.
There's another video that I want to play, if I can get it to play. This has been out for a while. This is one of the best videos that I can think of opposing critical race theory that you're ever going to see. It's this young dude. He's talking for maybe a minute, and he's there with what appears to be his little daughter. And they are addressing critical race theory. And I bet you've never heard this.
Daddy teaches you can be any